Peace be with you all, and welcome to our gathering of hearts and minds. Nestled within California's Sierra Nevada mountains, between the settlements of Badger and Dunlap, there once existed a remarkable Muslim community called Baladullah, City of God. Established during the 1990s by African-American Muslims, this settlement represented a profound vision, creating a self-sufficient society guided by Islamic principles, distanced from urban challenges and systemic barriers. For its founders, Baladullah symbolized more than physical structures. It embodied spiritual liberation, representing independence from generations of marginalization. They pursued tranquility through devotion, solidarity through communal living, and self-respect through self-reliance. The Sierra Nevada's secluded landscape offered not isolation but refuge, an environment where faith could permeate every dimension of existence, from learning and family life to economics and environmental stewardship. Daily existence in Baladullah centered on simplicity and worship. Families aspired to nurture children within moral, disciplined, faith-filled surroundings. They cultivated their sustenance, educated their youth, and managed their affairs. This approach mirrored prophetic traditions of harmonious coexistence with nature and divine connection. The community's architects believed authentic Islamic society could flourish in America not through political engagement, but through exemplary living. Yet by 2025, this vision has faded into history. Baladullah has disappeared from geographical and social landscapes. The territory now lies quiet. Structures have vanished, and the vibrant community survives only in dispersed records, newspaper articles, and former residents' memories. However, Baladullah's significance extends beyond one settlement's narrative. It represents the broader African-American Muslim pursuit of self-defined liberation. To comprehend Baladullah's emergence, we must examine the historical currents that shaped its creation. The community's origins trace back to African-American experiences, where faith and identity developed through generations of adversity, survival, and spiritual rediscovery. In the post-civil rights era, many Black Americans confronted persistent inequality. Legal recognition of equal rights hadn't translated into transformed living conditions. Urban centers deteriorated amid poverty, substance abuse, and violence, leaving many feeling betrayed by systems that promised justice. Within this environment, Islam emerged as more than religious affiliation. It represented spiritual revolution. For numerous African Americans, Islamic teachings provided structure, direction, and significance, an ethical compass in seemingly directionless times. The faith also restored dignity, affirming the sacredness of Black identity beyond societal stigmatization. Earlier movements, like the Nation of Islam, through figures including Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X, had planted seeds of pride and self-worth. By the 1970s and 80s, African-American Islamic practice began evolving. Under Warith Deen Muhammad's leadership, many transitioned from separatist ideologies toward mainstream Sunni Islam. This shift proved transformative, reconnecting believers with global Muslim communities while acknowledging racial realities in America. Yet it also created tension. How could Black Muslims live authentically within systems still characterized by inequality? For many, resolution came through establishing autonomous spaces, not complete separation from America, but creating environments where Islam could flourish without compromise. Throughout the 1980s and 90s, small rural Muslim settlements emerged nationwide, in South Carolina, Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, and California. These communities typically formed around African-American converts seeking refuge from urban deterioration and structural discrimination. Baladullah represented part of this broader movement, one of several Muslim settlements established under networks like Muslims of America, MOA, founded by followers of Sheikh Mubarak Ali Jilani. The MOA vision combined simplicity with ambition, living as Muslims in rural America guided by spirituality, service, and self-reliance. However, law enforcement and intelligence agencies often perceived these communities differently. Early 2000s reports connected some settlements, including Baladullah, to Jamaat al-Fuqra, an organization U.S. authorities alleged had 1980s-1990s criminal connections. These associations remained unproven, and most residents found such accusations deeply offensive. The majority of Baladullah's inhabitants viewed themselves not as militants, but families seeking improved lives. They maintained 5 daily prayers, homeschooled children, and endeavored to embody Islamic principles of justice, community, and peace. Their rural relocation represented spiritual rather than political action, an act of hijra, or migration from corruption toward purity, echoing Prophet Muhammad's journey from Mecca to Medina. In 2020-2024 interviews, former residents described Baladullah as a hopeful endeavor. One recalled, "We aimed to build righteousness, something our descendants could inherit proudly." Another stated, "We weren't escaping America, we sought to redefine Muslim American identity." Despite these intentions, the broader social context proved challenging. The 1990s, early 2000s witnessed growing apprehension toward Islam, intensifying after September 11, 2001. Terrorism-related anxieties meant Muslim autonomy, particularly among African Americans, became easily conflated with extremism. Contemporary scholars recognize this as a historical pattern. Whenever Black Americans pursued independence, economic, political, or religious, their efforts encountered suspicion. From Tulsa's Black Wall Street to Philadelphia's MOVE organization, self-reliance was interpreted as defiance. Baladullah, despite peaceful intentions, joined this misunderstood lineage. Through this lens, Baladullah's establishment appears neither mysterious nor radical, but rather a continuation of centuries-long journey, from southern plantations to California mountains, expressing a deep desire for faithful living beyond oppression. Baladullah materialized in mid-late 1990s through determined African-American Muslim leadership. Central to its foundation was Kadira Ghafoor, who, with her husband, drove the community's establishment. Their aspiration was substantial, creating a self-sustaining Muslim village where families could reside, worship, and educate children following Quranic teachings, removed from urban America's social challenges and violence. In 1989, Ghafoor and Associates acquired approximately 440 Tulare County acres. This property had complex history, previously serving as a rehabilitation camp associated with controversial Synanon organization. The site's Sierra Nevada foothill isolation offered privacy and autonomy advantages, though it presented infrastructure, accessibility, and community integration challenges. The founders envisioned a multifaceted community. Core components included Islamic households grounded in religious discipline and family values, environments for spiritual development where residents could transcend destructive urban cycles of substance abuse, crime, and violence. Education formed a central pillar. Around 2000, the community established Gateway Academy, a Fresno charter school designed to provide religious instruction alongside secular education. This institution represented a bold experimentation, integrating faith-based learning with public educational frameworks. At its peak, Baladullah's population ranged between 100 and 400 residents. Historical accounts describe the village containing modest homes, communal areas, and spaces for prayer and study. While relatively small, the community's aspirations were substantial, modeling sustainable Islamic society thriving independently within a challenging environment. Early perceptions among neighbors characterized Baladullah as closed yet generally peaceful community,
families quietly pursuing alternative lifestyles. However, their isolation bred suspicion. Outsiders noted unusual security measures and limited visitor access, factors that later fueled misunderstandings and media attention. Despite these challenges, Baladullah represented distinctive experiment in faith-driven self-determination. Its founders sought not merely physical independence, but social and spiritual sovereignty. The village embodied ideals many African American Muslims long pursued, living according to beliefs without external societal pressures. In retrospect, Baladullah's founding illustrates a recurring historical phenomenon: marginalized communities establishing autonomous spaces when conventional urban structures failed to provide safety, opportunity, or dignity. The village's existence, however brief,
demonstrates both the potential and vulnerability of such undertakings. Baladullah's daily life appeared deceptively straightforward. Residents inhabited simple cabins and trailers across Tulare County's rolling hills. Families followed rigorous schedules of prayer, Quranic study, and household responsibilities. Children participated in educational programs blending religious instruction with core academic subjects. The community maintained small-scale agriculture, growing vegetables and tending livestock, while residents engaged in regular zikr and Islamic study circles. Daily routines centered on faith, family, and communal obligation, foundational pillars of village life. Beneath this orderly surface, Baladullah's reality proved considerably more complex. Their remote location, while providing insulation from urban social problems, created substantial practical difficulties. Residents had restricted access to public infrastructure, including roads, healthcare, and emergency services. Employment opportunities within the community were limited, compelling some members to commute considerable distances for work, often risking exposure to societies that misunderstood their lifestyle. Internally, the village maintained strict organization with rigorous regulations governing social conduct, gender roles, and daily interactions. While this system aimed to preserve discipline and spiritual focus, it also generated tensions, particularly among younger residents. Some adolescents and young adults described isolation, confusion, or frustration, citing constrained social freedom and limited personal development opportunities. In many respects, the community's successful maintenance of discipline and separation became sources of internal strain. Externally, Baladullah's insularity fostered neighbor and authority suspicion. Reports described mysterious mountain settlement where residents conducted patrols, maintained fencing, and sometimes carried firearms for protection and training. Neighbors occasionally reported hearing gunfire from training areas or observing controlled movements around community perimeter. These observations, combined with limited transparency, contributed to growing perception of Baladullah as enigmatic or potentially dangerous enclave. Crucially, most residents didn't advocate violence or militancy. Their motivations were primarily spiritual and social, creating a secure Islamic environment for family flourishing. Nevertheless, the divide between Baladullah's internal ideals and external perceptions widened over time. The community's self-established boundaries, while designed to preserve religious integrity, conflicted with societal expectations and deepened misunderstandings. The balance between idealism and reality remained delicate. While Baladullah provided faithful sanctuary, modeling disciplined, family-focused Islamic living, its geographical isolation, strict internal codes, and opaque structures limited broader societal engagement, rendering residents susceptible to social alienation and scrutiny. Baladullah's initial years featured hope, discipline, and quiet spiritual pursuit, but by early 2000s, the community confronted unanticipated challenges. The fractures that would ultimately contribute to its decline stemmed not only from internal issues, but intensified through external examination, fear, and America's changing social atmosphere. The crucial turning point arrived March 2001, when a Baladullah member faced arrest for transporting firearms from New York to South Carolina. Though involving one individual, this incident became symbol of suspicion, raising questions about the village's purpose and practices. Later that year, August 2001, a Fresno shooting incident involved former Baladullah resident, intensifying local concern and attracting additional law enforcement attention. While most villagers had no violence involvement, these isolated events created a distorted image of community among outsiders. The catastrophic September 11, 2001 attacks transformed everything. Immediately, all U.S. Muslim communities faced intensified suspicion. The federal government expanded surveillance, media coverage grew increasingly sensational, and public perception of American Islamic life changed dramatically. Baladullah, with its secluded location, internal security protocols, and communal lifestyle, became an easy scrutiny target. Official documents, including congressional records, specifically referenced Baladullah in national security and radicalization discussions. The village's association with Muslims of America and Sheikh Mubarak Ali Gianni's influence received repeated emphasis. Reports framed these connections in ways frequently blurring distinctions between spiritual networks and militant activities, generating fear and misunderstanding. Media narratives intensified pressure. Local and national publications presented sensationalized stories depicting Baladullah as secretive or potentially dangerous enclave. Headlines emphasized weapons, isolation, and foreign spiritual leader connections, rather than families' daily efforts to live peacefully according to their faith. Consequently, Baladullah's reputation suffered, and residents experienced growing social and economic isolation. Financially, the community struggled. Contributions and support from sympathetic external Muslims diminished, as association fears with perceived extremism increased. Socially, families felt scrutiny's weight. Their children questioned why outsiders viewed their lives suspiciously, while elders worried about maintaining the community's spiritual mission within increasingly hostile environments. This period illustrates broader tension in post-9/11 America, balancing national security concerns with minority religious communities' rights to practice their beliefs. Baladullah epitomized this struggle. Most members weren't extremists or criminals, yet the very characteristics defining the community, isolation, discipline, and faith-centered governance, became reinterpreted as danger indicators. By early 2000s, Baladullah confronted accumulating pressures that would ultimately threaten its survival. These challenges emerged from multiple directions: social, financial, and administrative, creating an intricate web the village founders struggled to navigate. Particularly critical was Gateway Academy, the Fresno charter school Qadira Ghafoor established. Designed to educate children within the Islamic values framework while meeting state educational standards, the institution soon attracted state auditor and regulator scrutiny. Investigations revealed public fund management discrepancies. Official reports indicated over $1.3 million in charter school funds remained unaccounted for, whether through administrative mishandling, accounting mistakes, or insufficient oversight. These discoveries carried serious consequences. The school's credibility, and by extension, Baladullah's reputation, faced questioning. As legal actions intensified, authorities began targeting other village operations. Property holdings, community organizations, and financial assets underwent investigation. Some residents perceived these measures as disproportionately severe and influenced by Islamophobia and racial bias. viewing the community not merely as an administrative oversight subject, but as a suspected Muslim enclave. The combination of scrutiny and isolation placed enormous pressure on both leadership and general population. The consequences proved concrete and immediate. Vital infrastructure access disappeared. Gateway Academy closed, eliminating the community's central educational institution. Baladullah-associated offices and organizations dissolved or liquidated. Without financial stability, social support, or educational continuity, the village struggled maintaining cohesion. Families began departing, seeking safety, opportunity, and stability elsewhere. This phase highlights a crucial challenge intentional religious communities, particularly marginalized groups, face: balancing autonomy and accountability. While Baladullah's founders sought independence to live by Islamic principles, American governance mechanisms, regulations, audits, and legal oversight intersected with broader social biases, creating pressures small, isolated communities often lack the resources to withstand. Contemporary historians view this period as a decisive turning point. The collapse resulted not solely from internal mismanagement or vision failure, but also from systemic vulnerabilities. Communities attempting self-determination within societies rapidly scrutinizing, judging, and restricting minority initiatives found sustainability impossible. Baladullah's experience offers a broader lesson to Muslim communities worldwide. Building autonomous, faith-centered communities requires not only spiritual vision and discipline, but deep understanding of legal, financial, and societal